Hello and welcome to an installation demonstration of KISS Linux. KISS Linux is an independent distro that has now been available on the pre-release since June 18, 2018, to fully become released 6 days later on June 24th, making it now available for almost a year and a half at the time of this recording. To me, KISS Linux has an installation style like Arch Linux, while compiling packages like Gentoo with more simplicity in mind thanks to the exclusive package manager called KISS, which has been rated completely in Bash. This demonstration will show how this distro is installed by using the VmWare Workstation 16 Pro virtualization software with a VM that will use the BIOS firmware boot method and the Arch Linux Live Boot CD. This will allow to save approximately 4 hours to anyone who would like to try it themselves, since compilation time is edited for this video, plus all the extra time needed just to understand some components of the official documentation by either making clarifications on them or by making some minor modifications to help out the installation to become successful. So let me start out by creating a new virtual machine. And on here, I choose custom, next. Under the hardware, I'm going to choose 10. Now, the reason why I choose 10 for the VmWare Workstation, it's because if I decide to change the terminal size, like instead of having a specific resolution, I want to make it bigger or smaller for the terminal, it's not going to work if it's above 10, so I need to choose 10. Besides, this is an MBR installation. I'm not going to use the UEFI secure boot. I'm not going to use all that, so I'm good to go. So I click next, and I click next on installing the operating system later. And here under Linux, I choose the 5, which is 64-bit. Next. Here it's just telling me there's some features about the 5.x kernel that won't work because you choose 10, and one of them is UEFI. So I'm good to go. I'm not going to use that. I'm okay with that. I'm going to call it KISS Linux BIOS. 2 core is fine. I'm going to choose 3 gig of RAM. That translation is fine. LSI logic is fine. SCSI or SATA, yeah, recommended SCSI is fine. Create a new disk. Sure. I'm going to make it 20 gig. That's good enough. And as a single file. Next. Next. Finish. So I'm going to edit this machine. I'm going to remove the printer because I don't need it. And I'm going to choose my ISO image. Okay. Now I can start it. And I'm in. Now, in order to download the KISS Linux operating system, I need the command wget available, which doesn't come with the Arch Linux boot CD. So I'm going to install it. Done. And then what I would like to do is I would like to do an SSH connection because it is much easier to copy paste instructions from the website as opposed to type them out. Good. I need to set up my root password. And I need to know my IP address. Okay. So from here, I can just minimize my full screen. And I can do an SSH. Say yes. And I'm in. That. Now the first step, it says to install KISS, the disk should be set up and fully mounted to /MNT. In this section, there's pretty much nothing else. It doesn't talk about, how to do it. There's a wiki you can use to help you a little bit. So if I go this link here. It is still in development. It's not, fully completed, but you can scroll down and, check out what's going on here. There's a commit you can click on, and there's an FSTAP section. You can click here. It's going to tell you a lot of goodies here about how to set up, how to set it up, SD, SD2. So that's one way of doing it. Yeah, we'll show you the way I do it. It's quite straightforward. I do that for every installation, basically. It's pretty standard. So the first thing we need to do is to check which drives I have. So I have /dev/SDA. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to create a new partition. It's going to be primary partition. Enter. The first sector, the default is 2048. I'm good with that. And then I'm going to put 512 meg, which is enough for the kernel and the graph files. Then another partition. So that's going to be my swap. For this one, it's what I use is the amount of memory plus 1 gig. So 3 gig of RAM, so I'm going to put 4 gig. And the last one, just the remaining. So if I check, I have SD1, 2, and 3. I need to put a flag for the boot, and I need to change the ID for the swap here. So if I press A, number 1, now I have the flag for the boot. And here I have to put this to 82. So T, second partition, 82. And you can see the swap is there. So it's all good. I can just write this down. So I need to format those to make my life easier. I will choose the ext4. This. Third one. And then I'm going to make my swap. And I will activate it. So that's been done. Now the disk has been set up, and I have to mount them to /MNT. That's my root. Need to make a directory with boot, and have to mount boot partition. That's good. I did the swap on already. So this is all good. Now, when that's done and fully mounted, here it says to declare the variable. And that's the good part. We can just copy and paste. Download the latest release. Working because I installed the wget. Verify the checksum. I think this is really, really important because nothing is worse than do this 2 or 3 hours installation, and then there's one file corrupted inside the zip, and now you have to do it from scratch or re-download, try to see what's going on. This is a 2-liner. If you just do this and this, that might save you a couple hours. Okay, and that's it. That was a 2-liner. Worth the work. Time to verify the signature recommended, just to make sure that the file hasn't been hijacked. Copy. This one is a 3-liner. Again, it's worth the time. One. It says here the signature is good. Perfect. The warning, we can disregard that because there's no point of signing the signature under a live boot CD because after rebooting, this will go away. So as long as the signature is good, we can move on. We have to unpack the tarball. And I'm not going to do the path 2 because that's just to let you know that you have to go there. Yeah, good. Now here it's telling you to enter the chroot. There's two things that I like to do before I enter the chroot, which I believe makes my life much easier in the long run, especially when it's time to compile the kernel. The first command is the JNFS tab. What it's telling you is that I will take what you've mounted and I will create an FS tab. So let me do that. As you can see, my FS tab has been created. I have my root, I have my boot, and I have my swap. So I don't have to do that anymore, and it's working great. Second one is that I will use the kernel configuration from this live boot CD and make a copy to my root. So that way I don't have to figure it out how to program the kernel. I will take the one which came with the Arch Linux boot CD as long as I download the same kernel or higher. Lower doesn't really work very well. So if you take the current one of this one or higher, it's going to work fine. So now after it's done, I can actually root. Scroll down. Now here it says to set up the repositories. You have to download the packages through Git, and you have to tell it where they are located through the KISS path variable. Well, let's go down a bit. It says you have to set up the KISS path variable. This. And when you set up the KISS path variable, right, like this, you tell it where to go in order to install your KISS packages. So this is an example, right? You can actually create a profile on the root and you put all those goodies. And then when you do a KISS update or a KISS install, it's going to go all there, which is good, not a problem. So here, when you do your git clone for your repo, that's the official repo, and then you do a git clone for your community, just make sure that it is located there. Create this, that's not a problem. This is okay. This is where the issue starts. The issue starts because, let me go down a little bit. When you do the enable signature verification, it's telling you to go there. And if you go there, that's not like this. It's a different place. So some people might have some issues. It's okay, I don't understand. I go there, it's telling me the folder does not exist. So what am I supposed to do from there? That's the first problem. The second problem is that when you do a KISS update here, if you created the same thing as the example, it's going to give you two problems. The first problem is going to give you an error message that those folders don't exist. So if you put that in your path, but you didn't create it, like a blank folders, your KISS update will fail. It's going to tell you you have some missing folders. So that's not too bad. You just create those two. But after you do your KISS update, it's going to tell you you have to update first your KISS software. And when you install the KISS software, which is your package manager, it tells you to do it again. And then when you do it again, it's going to tell you there's a variable that has been set and it fails. So in order to fix this, I'm going to use it the old style. I'm going to actually modify not the profile as the local profile of root, I'm going to do this kiss path.sh. That was part of the old documentation. So regardless of who logs in, the kiss path variable will kick in. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then here I have some text. I'm going to just put that in there, and I'm going to put a lot of goodies, which I will explain what it is. So when somebody logs in, now I'm going to put all those repos under var dbkiss, which is compliant to the file hierarchy system 3.0 of Linux. So var is the right place. So it's already in there in terms of installation of KISS packages. I'm going to put my repos there. That's how it used to be anyway. In terms of KISS variables, I'm going to remove the personal games and the personal web. Because first of all, it's only a demonstration. I'm not going to use that. And second of all, if I put that in there and I don't create at least empty directories, when I'm going to do a KISS update, it's not going to work. So I'll just remove those two. In terms of those flags, basically, if you follow a little bit below, it's going to tell you to do that manually. If you go below, let me just find it. So it's all done here, which is far away. It will ask you to do that, and then you can compile everything. But if you just do it like that way, and then everything is good, and you reboot and you log in, and you start compiling more, then those flags won't be there. You would have to do it manually, and why doing that? So this is part of the profile. So when somebody logs in, you can compile using those flags. Finally, the export kiss is used to fix a bug. But that's even worse. So if you go here at one point, going to ask you to do a kiss update. And there it's below. Yeah, it's much below. My bad. Do this, you do that, and you do a kiss update. When you do a kiss update, what's going to happen? It will tell you, okay, no problem. There's a couple of packages that needs to be updated, but I need to update kiss first. So you do the update, and then after that, it tells you run the kiss update again. So if you don't read properly, you would do the kiss update, make an update, and you would just move forward. But it only updated the kiss. When you do the kiss update again, there's an error message, and it's telling you that the kiss underscore su variable hasn't been set, and you have to set it up to something, and nothing happens. So you have to set up this variable to su. When this is done, then the kiss update works. So this export fixes a problem in the long run. So as you can see, this section is quite problematic, especially on the KISS update where I had to go to the KISS Linux Reddit forums and saw the answer there. So this will save you all this work, all those problems in the long run by doing that. This will be put in the description of this video so that you don't, so you need to do what to do, basically. Okay? Let me save this. And then what it's telling you when it's all done, you have to reload this profile here. And just to make sure that works, I will do an echo. All good. And now I can continue with the official repositories. Go down. Now I have a git clone, but I have to go where my kiss path variable says so before I do this git clone. So in my case, there, this is where I will do my git clone because this is where my kiss path is pointing to. I have this community here. All good. The universe, I'm not going to do that, but it's worth going there. There's some people who did some get repos with fonts and so on. I really suggest that you go in there and check it out. But for this demonstration, I will skip it. Now you have to enable repository sign in. And this is the first KISS installation. So KISS, like I said before, is the package manager all written in Bash. Build is the command, and this is the software. If you only have one, you have to manually do the install command afterwards. If you have more than one, then you don't need to do that. The reason being, it's because sometimes you will try to install something. It's going to tell you there's some dependencies, maybe one or two. It will download and build and install those dependencies without you doing anything. And then after that, you have to do the installation. So let me start with the first one here. So this is working because my KISS path variables are fine. If they are not, then this doesn't work. It's going to tell you cannot find the files, so just double check your variable and to make sure that it's proper. Okay. As a reminder, it tells you that you have to do kiss I. I is for install. So both work. You can do the full command install or you can do just the I. Done. Now it's telling you to import this key. Again, it's nice to do copy and paste because sometimes those letters and numbers can be difficult to follow. So boom, done. Imported successfully. You have to trust his key. I love this one-liner. Normally it's 2-3 commands manually. Good. And now you have to enable the signature. And this is what I was telling you. Now that I've put everything in the right place, I can just copy and paste. And I just have to put the signature verification to true. Good. Now it's asking you to rebuild KISS. On this one, it's telling you to do the export, but I've put it into the profile just as a verification. Yep, it's exactly what I wanted. So I'm good. Now let's do a KISS update. So it's telling you you have to update all those packages, including KISS. And here it says the package manager will be updated first before doing anything else. Continue, sure, enter. Now from here, you might be tempted. Okay, I did my KISS update and I can just continue, but it's telling you to rewrite it again because the only thing it did is to update KISS. So let's do this again. And now it's telling you, yep, you can do all that. And this is what you have to do. Like I said before, if you didn't export the KISS SU variable into your profile, you get an error message saying this KISS SU profile variable hasn't been set. So it's really important. So because I did it, it's all good. So we'll press enter and it will update 5 of them. So it's all completed. Just to be on the safe side, I will just do it again. All good. Let's scroll down. And here it says to rebuild all packages. So this command, what it's telling you to do is to go there. And then from this folder, what's going to happen is that when you launch this git build command and the star, it will go through all the folders, rebuild everything, and reinstall everything using the C flags that you've updated into the profile. Now, this can take up to an hour. So for the people who are very new to this, it can be frustrating to do that. And then after 2-3 hours, nothing is working the way you want it to be. Perhaps you didn't copy paste like I'm doing, or you're typing everything. There's some commands or that's not didn't work, and or for example, or there's some other stuff that isn't working the way it should, and you say to yourself, okay, I want to restart from scratch. Well, if you do this and then restart from scratch, you pretty much lost an hour of rebuilding. So for those of you who are doing this maybe for the first time, I would say don't do it. Me, I've been doing it for quite a long time, and I know at the end it's going to be quite successful. Quite. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work under MBR. I'm going to be honest with you, but that's for a different story. So I will do this command. I will do this just to show you that it works. And it says, hey, they went through all this, and let's build it. So I'm going to press enter. Okay, all done. Done. So we need to decide what kind of file system we need. Now, in this demonstration, I only need ext4, but for the sake of it, I will just pretty much do all of them. Start with this one first. And just do one up. Install. Two. FS. Now it says one of the dependencies is util Linux. And if you go down a little bit, it's going to ask you to install it again. So I will skip this part afterwards. I will just do here. Done. Device management, like I said, I'm going to skip this one because it was already built as a dependency. One for the device manager. Done. I will skip the Wi-Fi because there's no need to do that in this virtual environment. Now from here, we have to install the DHCP. Not a big fan of static IP addresses, so let me just do that. Now, it doesn't tell you anything else after that. There is a wiki. Let me just show it to you under the KISS Linux site. It tells you pretty much everything about, how to install it, how to configure that, even putting a static IP, and how to have it run when you boot up. Everything is in there. For me, I have a little different way of doing this. It's a two-liner. Just makes it work in a little bit more clean. You have to create a directory, which is /etc/rc.d. And then I create a file called dhcp-cd.boot, and I put this command here. And the two is to make sure there's no warning messages and stuff like that. So this works. There's different ways of doing it. This is, for me, my favorite one. I'm going to continue the host name. Now, if I copy and paste, I don't put host name here. This is something I have to change. So KISS Linux box. Down. It says to update the etc/host file. It doesn't really tell you exactly what to modify and how to do it. So let me just show it to you. The only thing you have to do is to add a one-liner. Here we put kiss Linux box. That way, if I ping kiss Linux box, it just shows me the local IP. Continue. So this step must be done every time you change the host name. No problem. Now it's time for the kernel. So what do we need to do for the kernel? It's basically first download it, but it's going to need some packages first. So let's do those packages. First one, and curses. Good. Perl. Perl is installed. Now it's telling you to download the kernel sources. The first thing to do before downloading the kernel sources in this demonstration, because we did back up the configuration file of the kernel of Arch Linux boot CD, we need to know which one we're using. The kernel is 5.9.2. So what I will do to make my life very simple is I will download 5.9.2. Go there. 5.9.9. So let me go here. Linux, kernel, 5, changelogs, 5.9.2. That's click, copy link address. Now, because we're following this installation guide, you might be tempted to just do a wget in there. But this is where you've installed all those packages. If you create any kind of different directories and you do, let's say, a KISS update, it's going to go through all this and it's going to say, hey, this directory is not a KISS package. It's important to not put the kernel in there. So let's go just one up. And I'm going to do the wget. Okay, so we have to extract. All good. So here it talks about download the firmware blobs. Technically, especially in this VM, I don't need that. For those of you who do not want to install it in the VM as first and would like to go to some closed source firmware blobs, you can definitely do that. But in terms of graphic cards, it's all open source now. Intel, ATI, NVIDIA, it's all in there in the kernel. So there's no really need to do that on the first installation. I would probably say just skip that and maybe go back to that later on if it's really needed, because that can create a lot of headache sometimes to just try to set that up initially. So me, I will just skip that, especially I don't need it for this VM. And now here it says make the default configuration. Like I said, I did a backup, so let me get the backup. So this is the backup done. So we'll skip this because I took the backup. And then it says make menu config. So I will show you something. Config. Now, if you go down here, I'm going to go under device drivers. You see there's a lot of modules because this is how Arch Linux works. Let's go under sound. I'm going to go on this one. And PCI. You see all those modules? I know for a fact mine is this one because I'm just used to set it up myself. Okay. So let me show you a trick. There's a command. There's a command that exists. And it's called local yes config. So basically what it will do, it will check all the modules loaded in memory and then convert the module inside that configuration file to a core yes. And disregard all the ones which has not been loaded into the memory. Okay, so it's local yes config. Get out of there, make local yes config. Then it's going to ask you what you want to do with this. Just say yes, so you don't have to think too hard. And it's done. Now, if I make menu config again, let me check my device drivers. And I'm going to go again to my sound here, and then PI. You will see it's all gone. All the modules are gone. Then mine has been selected. This is a trick that I've been using for quite a long time. That's the easiest way. It's not the most lean way, but it's definitely, the best way of doing it, easiest way. There's a couple of things I would like to change under general setup. The first one is that the kernel compression mode, it will not work under ZSTD. I have to check XZ to make it work with the KISS Linux. The default host name, I have to change it. It's not Arch Linux. KISS Linux box. So I'm good for those two. I'm gonna get out of there. If I go check processor type, I'm not gonna play, I know I don't have any AMD, but I just want to make it functional. Under Linux guest support, the libSSL version or configuration doesn't work with the Xen one. If I leave this on, I'm gonna have a compilation problem with libSSL. So I'm gonna just remove this and optimize it by choosing core. And that's pretty much for this one. Now if I go back down under device drivers, there's one thing I need to check. It's the USB. Because like I said, it checked the modules that I needed. It checked the module that was in the memory. And it disables some stuff under USB because my USB is not plugged in. If I go under USB support and you go down, the mass storage support is gone because I have no USB key. So I have to put that in there. When I'm there, I'm going to just put everything here. I don't want to recompile just because the driver wasn't loaded for my USB key. I'll just put that in there. Okay. And then my 1.1 for my USB hub wasn't turned on, so I'm going to turn it on. Wasn't turned on when I set up the VM. 2.0 is fine. And then the 3.0. So that way, if I want to change my VM and put 3.0, 1.1 is going to work. So that's one thing. Got to get out of there. Other file systems, because I compiled the exe2 and 3, I'm going to put that in there. I don't really need it, but I compiled it, so I'm going to do that, and XFS as well. good to go. And I know that it's already okay for the 532. Already there. Oh, it's not there. So I'm going to do that. Point. I don't need those two. Oh, accession fat. No, it's VFAT that I need. I don't need the rest. Yeah, just that is fine. Okay. And then if I get out of there and I go under kernel hacking, I know that under KISS the files to generate a BTF is not installed, so I have to remove that, or I'm going to get a problem during compilation as well. So all that is good to go. I'm going to get out of there. And now I have to compile like this. Well, this is done. There's no error messages. Pretty good. Clear the screen. So let's make a backup. Very important to do that. Now I did that already, the minus J2, so that's good. Now I can install modules, but I don't think there's any configured. Yep, no modules. That's good. Let's do a make install. Done. You can disregard the Slido thing. It's all good. Now we can rename the two files. 5.9.2. Now the bootloader, I'm not going to do that right away. Okay, I'm going to just skip that for a moment. I'm going to install the init scripts. So here it's telling you to reset your root password. Then you have to add a normal user. So I'm going to add user. That's done. Xorg, I'm not going to do that for now. That's an hour to an hour and a half to do all that. I'm going to just skip that part. And that's pretty much it. So let's go back and we'll install grub. Now this is MBR, this is BIOS. I'm not going to touch that. Set up grub. Let's double check our etcfs tab. Yep, still good. Now you can see it's 1, 2, 3, right? It's SDA, so there's no X. A, right? Very important. I'm going to do that. The mornings, but it's not a problem. There's no errors. Then we have to do the configuration file. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. I'll go back to my VM. See how this goes. Okay, so this is not unusual for me under my environment. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, because you might have that as well. So I'm happy that it occurred. What you have to do from there, you press escape and you boot from the CD-ROM and you go back to your live session. And you install Grub. And then from here, you have to mount your boot. Then you do a Grub install. Problem, now reboot again. And now it's working. So you choose KISS. You're in. That's it. That's pretty much the workaround if you have this problem, but it works great after that. If I don't get as root, and let's see if the sound works. Yep, it works. Let's ping. Works. Let me check here my, do I have? So I have my network, I have the ATA, I have the sound, I have my graphics. Yep, I have everything here. Let's see if I put my USB key, what's going to happen. Yep, it shows my USB key here, working. Let's install something from the community package, LZ4, working, which means my KISS path variable is set up properly. Yep, it's all good. Well, this is it. So I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of how to install KISS Linux under a BIOS firmware. Now, if you go on YouTube and you check and you put like KISS Linux install and stuff like that, you will get people saying KISS with Linux, but they just mean keep it simple, stupid, and it's going to be different distros. So if you would like to click like on this video so that people can see how to install KISS Linux for using MBR BIOS firmware, that would be great. You can subscribe as well. Again, thank you very much for this demonstration and take care.